Alright everybody, back with another video. We're looking at a 4600 chassis here, and on my last video that I'll link to, I had a donor tube. We did the resistance and inductance measurements on it, and I felt like it might be too far off for 4600, so I kind of chickened out and just went ahead and modified it from parallel wiring on the vertical side to series, and we swapped it with a 4900. I will, at the end of the video, update on the progress of that in the track and field cabinet to see if I can dial it in to a game versus the TPG. But anyway, I still needed a tube for this 4600, so I went and grabbed another donor tube I had, which is a CR23 or type of neck socket. And do I have, oh crap, you can't see the model number. I'll get the model number of the tube. It came out of like a Sanyo TV, and I'll film that here in a second as well, so you have the model numbers and stuff. But anyway, I went ahead, and I'm not going to show it everything, but I went ahead, and this is the yoke, and you can see this actual yoke from this donor TV has additional posts for both potentially the vertical and the horizontal side, which is kind of cool. It is wired in parallel versus in series, and I just, you measure red and blue to get your horizontal reading, yellow and green, I think, to get your vertical reading. And what those readings were is right there. We had on the vertical side 14.2 ohms, 29.5 millihenries, and on the horizontal side 3.0 ohms and 2.63 millihenries. Just for reference, this is what the old the tube that I did the restore on in the previous video read. It was a little bit, the millihenries were pretty close, but not exact, so it's pretty, within the range, and it seems like most TVs might even be looking like this. The two of them that I grabbed are already like that. So, and what we need for a 4600 is 18 millihenries on the vertical side. So we're off by a good 10 to 12 millihenries on the vertical side, and we need 2.07 millihenries or 2.7 ohms on the horizontal side. And we're close on the ohms, right there actually. We're close on the ohms, but we're off by like 0.6 on the horizontal millihenries for inductance. But I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm curious. I just want to do it and then see what it looks like and measure high voltage and stuff, and kind of do maybe some myth busting. I don't know. So we'll see. I'm going to throw it in just as it is, even though it's technically off by a good percentage amount, more than 10%, I think, on both of those. And we're going to see what it looks like. Now, I do have to, I already, mounted the tube inside the frame. I tied the DAG straps together right there. The 4600 yoke, as I mentioned in the previous video, has these type of spade connectors. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut the yoke connector off here, put in some male spade connectors, and connect them in like that right there. So I'm going to do that and be right back. And what else am I going to do? I'm going to find the tube number, even if I have to take this thing out of this 4600 shield here. If I have to do that, we'll get the tube number, and we'll get the a video of the model number of the TV it came out of. Alright, so I have the yoke wired up. I put some spade connectors. I should have used some shrink wrap, but whatever. I just used some electrical tape to cover the metal part. Should have used some shrink wrap to make it look better. But let's see what else. The tube itself came out of a Sanyo DS19390 TV, and the tube was a A48 KRD82X. So again, we know that our inductance is definitely off. It's off by let's see here, it's off by 0.6 on the horizontal side, and it's off by about 10 or about 11 millihenries on the vertical side. So 0.6 on the vertical and about 11 to 12 on the vertical. Did I say that right? Horizontal 0.6, vertical like 11 or 12. Alright, so got the TPG hooked up. We'll flip it on. Cross our fingers here. I think I have everything hooked up. Have a D-Gauss coil, yeah. Alright, here we go. Hopefully nothing happens. Alright, tube is on. Alright, we'll definitely have some degaussing issue or something, at least, but I do have a picture. Brightness is a little high. I can control focus. The brightness pot on this 4600 I have to get to. So anyway, that's what it looks like. It's kind of red, definitely too bright right now. So let me adjust it and I have to refamiliarize myself with all the controls and everything. I think there's my brightness control, if I'm not mistaken. But let me mess with that bad angle. You can see that the print is inverted, so I have to flip the yoke, and I might need to put it there. I mean, it doesn't look too bad. I got my degaussing coil there, so I can get it pretty close. There we go, up top. So that's looking pretty good. It's definitely a degaussing issue as far as the colors go, and I was able to adjust the black level. I apologize for the angle of my camera here. I'm working in a tight spot, but the black level is right there, and I was able to adjust that. So let me get the high voltage probe out and flip the yoke, and then come back and do some more measurements. I'm hooked up to the blue lead there off that resistor to check B+, and we're at 124 volts. It's supposed to be 127, so there is an adjustment pot, I think, somewhere. I'm not exactly sure. I flipped the yoke as well, so I have that the text reading correctly. But let's go ahead and hook up the high voltage probe, and I'll measure it real quick. I think it's supposed to be 25,000 volts at 0 beam, which is, I guess, a black signal. So I'll turn the TPG off, and I got my high voltage probe ready to go. Let me just hook it up real quick. Nothing being displayed on the screen. It's pretty much a black image. There's a little bit of blue that I probably need to adjust. I'm going to slide the high voltage probe under the anode cup. Let me ground. I don't have my ground strap on. Alright. That's an important thing. Duh. I'm reading 21,000 volts, so you can hear that. It scares the shit out of me when I'm doing this. I think I have it touching the anode. We're about almost 22,000 volts, which is about 3,000 volts less than what the spec says, but I really have to hook onto another 4600, which I'll probably do just to compare to see if it actually is lower. The voltage, high voltage, actually was lower. So I will. Let me see. The other thing that I would mention, and I can't talk right now because I got a lot of things going on in my head, trying not to get killed messing with this thing. I can adjust the vertical size, and it's not too far off from a horizontal standpoint, because this monitor is rotated vertical there. So I might have to, I don't know, I've never messed with the width coil on a 4600, but I assume that I could stretch it out. Probably don't need to for most games. I think it's pretty much centered and everything, and it looks halfway decent. So I don't know, I might hook up a game signal to it as well just to see what it looks like. So alright, that's it for right now. I'll be back in a second. Alright, this is the other tube that I have. I just I was doing swapping the frames with this. I had this 4600 already. I don't know, I got it from somewhere, I'm not sure where, but I had was swapping some stuff around in my Tato cabinets yesterday, and so I put this one in the Tato mount frame, but it's making a high-pitched squeal. Anyway, I'm getting distracted. I need to recap the chassis and stuff. Anyway, alright, so we got a 4600 plugged in so we can compare something to. And, by default, it looks pretty decent. There's a little bit of degaussing. Probably can't see it in that lower corner issue as well on this one. And probably could adjust the brightness a little bit. But whatever. Still looks pretty darn good. So what do we want to do? Zero beam. So we'll turn it off. Wow. Does need some brightness control, because that looks like some green is on. Let me adjust this monitor. I have the monitor on, but there's nothing on the screen. So Windrake told me that zero beam is when you have no signal. So this always scares the crap out of me. I'm trying to get it so I can actually hit the anode without knocking the damn thing off. I don't think I'm getting... Oh, shit. Damn, that scared me. That shit scared me. Alright, let me pause. Let me see. Is the monitor still on? Oh, yeah. Alright, monitor's still on. Man, that's what I'm saying. Like, this thing scares the crap out of me doing this while it's on. But that's how you're supposed to do it. Alright, there we go. I'm at 23,000 volts, and I think we were at 22 before. So you can hear that squealing and stuff like that. That's why 23,500 volts. Now it said 25,000 volts at zero beam in the manual, but obviously this one is not exactly on the nose either. So I would say that we're okay with a high voltage wise. I don't know if the higher impedance on the vertical or higher inductance, I guess, is going to cause any issues when we put it in the game, but we'll find out. So measured the B plus as well. Did I test it on this one? I'll test it on this one just to make sure it's all right. I have my red lead on the blue wire of the resistor there. I think that's the right resistor, the one at the top. And this is reading 125.8, so this one's off by a couple volts, or 1.5 volts as well. So anyway, that's for comparison, a 4600 with a 4600 yoke compared to the one that we just put in there. So alright, let me actually hook up the new tube swap into a game and see what it looks like. Alright, so because this is the cabinet I was working on, it's my ZooQ Space Dungeon. I actually took the monitor that was in this and put it in my Tato kicks, which had the issue with the HK short. And the reason I did that is because this tube actually also is a G07, but it also had some slight kicks burn. You can just barely see kicks up in the upper left. Maybe, I don't know if you guys, well, not with a shadow like that, but so I was like, well, if I'm going to do a tube swap, I might as well put the brand new tube, or the one that has no burn, in my Space Dungeon. So right now this is the tube swap one, and I have Space Dungeon running on it, and you can see it probably needs the width adjusted. It's not, you know, it's not taking up the full screen by any means, so want to try to do that. But I figured I'd put it on the tripod and just play the game a little bit too. I don't know why that has to be the horizontal coil, right? So I'm gonna have to think about that. As far as I can tell, it's working great though. I mean, I don't see any problems with it. It does need has some degauss issues there. I'll turn the lights off and put it on a tripod, and we'll play a little bit just to see if the screen is drawing as fast as you think it would. And then maybe I'll hook up the other monitor as well. Alright, hopefully you can see this. I might do Zookeeper as well. I mean, I don't know. It looks pretty good. I mean, it's still, I didn't degauss it yet, but it's hard playing on the, when I don't actually have it in the game. This game is hard as shit anyway. But I mean, I don't see, I mean, I'm not noticing anything problematic. Shit. I mean, looks pretty good just with some colors, and I probably need to adjust the B plus as well. I mean, obviously that would probably help with the size. I always hate messing with it because the B plus pots on these 4600s suck. So if it's close, I usually just... This game slows down a lot too when you're playing it, and you get a lot of stuff going on the screen. Anyway, so yeah. I don't notice any difference. I don't know. With the vertical inductance being at least, 11 off, and the horizontal was off too on the inductance. So, all right. Well, let me maybe hook up the other monitor as well, or adjust this some more. All right, I got the other one hooked up, and this is why I needed to pull it out. You guys can hear that high-pitched squeal. I'm hoping it's just caps. I can't remember. I was working on this before, and I think I swapped out the deflection boards between the two chassis. Maybe I'll do that real quick, actually, see if it's associated with that. I'll be right back. All right, so I got distracted, and this is probably a couple weeks later. I had to do some traveling anyway. So I pretty much, I'm not going to screw with the chassis that was making the high-pitched squeal. I did the tube swap, need to get this tube in the Space Dungeon. But what I figured I would do before I did that, so this is the tube that we did the tube swap on. I'm not going to screw with that other 4600 for right now. Let me see, what am I going to do? What I did is I took my ZooQ board out of the cabinet and put it on the bench, because I like working on things at the bench anyway, instead of screwing around, bending over, and all that stuff. Right, so what I wanted to do was show, if I can actually get it to focus, is show it on my Sony PVM monitor, go through some test modes with the monitor, see what the game looks like on my PVM. If it can focus, I don't know why it's not focusing. There we go. Just so you can see if there's any geometry issues. So I figured I would put it on the tripod, and then let's go through some test modes. All right, sorry if it goes out of focus, but we'll deal with it the best we can here. Okay, Okay, I have to actually go into test. Test and then service switch, I think. So this is actually the Space Dungeon. What's awesome about James's Zoo Cues, I mean, it emulates everything. So even the test functionality, it's probably hard to see on the camera, but this is a gradient scale of, you know, white to dark over here to adjust your brightness, and you can see the red, blue, and green boxes there very faintly. Some color bars. This monitor looks a little pink, actually, I think. I don't know if it's supposed to be that pink. I'm not going to mess with it. I have my contrast turned down. But usually this PVM is spot on, so actually this is like red right there. Looks a little more orangish. I like my reds a little brighter than that, but alright, and this is one of the things I wanted to look at because I didn't know what this was supposed to look like on a normal monitor, so I wanted to use my PVM. You can see the red line over here is slightly off the screen. The red line over there, a white square around the edge or white grid pattern, and then a green grid pattern inside of that. Everything looks pretty square except for the red lines. There's a slight curl up there. Alright, so and that's it. And if I just play really quickly, or try to, you can see that looks pretty decent. So let me pause and then let's look at the game on the replacement monitor. So I have the tube hooked up. I had adjusted the width coil to the widest it would go. So that's as much as the screen it's going to take up, and then I adjusted the vertical size just so we could make sure we saw all the picture on there. So to me, I think this is set up pretty good, but let me flip this around. Let's go through our test menu here. Alright, so probably need to adjust the brightness just a tad bit. Let me see, can I do that without getting in camera here? I could just see a hint of the blue. Just a little bit of the red there. Let me mess with this. I'll pause real quick. Alright, we'll try this one more time real quick. I think I have it adjusted right. Gotta go through the test. And go. So maybe you can see it on the screen, but I paused. I put this tube actually on my restorer just to make sure the guns were all good. And this is pretty much the best I can get it. You can just barely see the blue, green, and red without it overdriving the screen. It's still a dark picture in the back. I could probably turn the brightness down just a little bit more, but it's pretty good. That looks good. Now you notice that little curvature there. I saw that on the same test screen. I saw that on the Sony PVM as well. Now this one is where you can see a little bit. The green is definitely inside the white. The white looks, the geometry looks pretty good, but a slight bow, I think, on the sides. So because the monitor is vertical right now, so on the top you can see a slight bow there. And if I adjust the horizontal center, I can kind of line up the red with the white, but I think the red is actually supposed to be outside of the white, at least it was on the PVM. And you see just a slight curve at the perimeters there. So that might be the only thing that's slightly different with this tube and the yoke that we put on there, with the vertical yoke being a little bit more different, or the horizontal. But I can live with it. It looks pretty darn good. Yeah, you can see kind of does curve just slightly at the top there. And same thing with the space dungeon there. But it's pretty much centered in the screen. So I think what I'm going to do now is just put this tube back in the other Tato frame, and then put it in the game. Alright, got everything back in, mounted in my space dungeon. I know the cameras, I was watching the video playback, and I know the camera's not going to pick up the colors very well. There's still a little bit of degaussing issues in this lower left hand corner, but everything else looks pretty darn good. I'm not going to do the demo anymore, but the tube looks great. I mean, there's like these little faint stars on Space Dungeon in the background, and I think the colors look great. And I also had some interference, because a lot of times with the monitors, if you have a switching power supply in there, if you don't tie field ground and logic ground on the power supply together, you'll get this interference here. And that's mostly because on a lot of these monitors, the field ground and logic ground are tied together. So there's some type of variance between logic ground and field ground that causes the switcher to misbehave. So it had a lot of interference. Not a lot, but it was very faint. And now you can actually see the background. I don't notice really the geometry of the screen. Even if it's a little off at the edges, you can't really see it at all. So I'm not really playing for real, but this game is so fun. This is my favorite game on the system. And you can see, I could probably turn the brightness down just a little. I don't know. It's pretty darn good. If I look at kicks on it, I have it forced to 60 hertz. You know, the red line across the top looks great. The yellow, the convergence is great. There might be a slight bow at the bottom, but very difficult to see. I think it looks really good. Now, when I played Zookeeper, that's the only place where you can I can notice it looks better than what it had in the previous monitor, but you can see the discoloration from needs to be degaussed a little bit more down here in the lower left. And you can see the width of the bar at the bottom is off, but I don't know. I didn't play this on my PVM to see what it would look like, but this definitely looks better than what I had in here previously. And Zookeeper is playing, it's supposed to be horizontal, so this could be an artifact of it being in vertical mode. The fact that that bar at the bottom is a little bit wider. But again, a little bit of degaussing, I'll take care of that. Otherwise, I think everything looks great. If you've never played Complex X, Dog P on claws made a code update to this so that you can shoot and jump, or jump and move with the left controller, so you don't actually have to use a button to jump, which is a lot better. This game is hard too. Alright, so anyway, that's it, guys. Hopefully this video helped, and I'm going to show the track and field on another video. So I'm going to wrap this one up and publish it. Talk to you next time.